Hello there guys and welcome to Mad Doc Minis. Let's take a look at this Mark III Space Marine. Nothing screams Horus Heresy quite like the brutal Mark III iron armour of the Space Marine Legions, does it? The grim aesthetic of this armour perfectly matches that cataclysmic conflict, and it's my favourite Space Marine armour by a country mile. And yet I'm unsatisfied with these miniatures. And why? They're too small. I hope to convince you of this by running some comparisons in this video, but I'm also going to show you a potential conversion of how to make these Space Marines into Truescale or Primaris scale miniatures. So first of all, let's think about comparing our miniature here to a regular Imperial Guardsman. This is a Cadian with a head swap. Yeah, I'm a Praetorian fanboy. Let the banter begin, put it in the comments. But in all seriousness, does the Space Marine really dominate the other miniature here? No, it doesn't. I mean, this is a gene-enhanced warrior strutting around in over a ton's worth of armoured plate. Does it really look that way? Is it just me? What do you think? I don't think it's really working. But let's do a further comparison. Let's now compare our Mark III Space Marine to a much more modern Space Marine, a Primaris Intercessor. Now, the Intercessor and the Mark III Space Marine would not really meet in the official Warhammer lore. There's about 10,000 years separating these guys, but forget that for a second and just look at the aesthetics. The Primaris Space Marine has much better proportions in the legs and the abdomen. The Mark III Space Marine is looking just a little bit dumpy next to him. This is a bit of a problem for me. It might not be for you. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on it, so do drop it in the comments below if you disagree. But it's something that I need to do something about. So let's run another comparison. Let's compare our Mark III Space Marine against the very recently released Mark VI Space Marine, which comes in the Horus Heresy box set. Now, this guy is a little bit taller. Look at the head height. So that's the main giveaway, really. If you look from behind, there's not too much difference when you look at the backpacks. But the head height is the giveaway, and there are once again better proportions in the legs. However, the Mark VIs still aren't tall enough for me, and I tend to convert those up and stretch them out as well. Go and check for a link in the descriptions if you want to do that conversion. So, how do I go about it? I'll take you to the next screen and show you a simple conversion, and for me, a relatively cheap conversion on how to stretch these Mark III Space Marines out and make them a little bit more imposing. Okay, so you're going to need some Mark III Space Marines and some milliput modelling putty for this conversion. I'd recommend milliput as you're going to need a lot of it and it's relatively cheap, but you can use anything that'll set hard. Mash up a good amount of that and start building up the bases of your miniatures. Yeah, that's right, we're going to cheat a little bit, but don't worry, only as much as is necessary. Make a nice smooth hump on each base and really smooth the edges down around the rim. That will really help hide the fact that you're cheating a little bit. Do a little bit of a scale comparison at this stage as well. Just lightly press a pair of legs into the milliput and check with a miniature that you're trying to match the scale to. Here I'm just comparing against another conversion that I did a while back. Looking good. Groin's about the same height, which is the key thing. I wouldn't recommend just placing the Mark III torsos on as they're supposed to, because you still end up with a shortened miniature, as you can see here. You need to stretch out that midsection a little bit, really. So, you need to grab a little bit of milliput and mash it into a pea-sized sphere. You're going to need to reinforce this all with super glue once the milliput sets, guys, as well, because milliput doesn't really stick plastics very well together. So place that on top of the legs and mash it into a gumdrop shape. And then the torso is going to get pressed over the top. The groin plate on the torso only needs to go down as far as just touching the plastic on the legs. Don't push down too far because you're going to defeat the object if you do that. Your Marine's probably going to end up with a rather unattractive muffin top sticking out the sides. But don't worry, that's very easy to fix. All you do is just smooth it down with a wet finger or a sculpting tool. And you don't need to be neat at all, because this is going to get covered up later, as you'll see. It's a good idea to do another scale check at this stage. This is looking really good. Always check for head height, that's the main giveaway. So next it's time to stick on the other bits and pieces of the miniature. Backpacks, arms, weapons, heads, etc. all go on as they're supposed to. You then need to hide that ugly midsection. You need lots of storage for that. Chainswords, pouches, grenades, holsters, make a big pile. You're going to need lots of it, guys. Use super glue, not plastic cement. Remember, you're sticking it to milliput. Nice. So we're going to do another conversion here just on these miniatures, and that's going to be a Mark 6 chain blade. I'm just going to cut that little section off there, and then it sticks very nicely underneath the barrel of the Mark 3 bolter. Simple conversion, but I'm really happy I did this. It makes the model look a little bit more brutal. Perfect for Death Guard. Nice. So we're getting close to the end of the conversion here. I actually used some 3D printed pauldrons on mine, as you'll see in the final footage, with Death Guard symbols. Heads, pauldrons go on, and we've got a complete miniature. So let's think about doing a little bit of a comparison now with the original Mark III Space Marine that we had in the beginning of the video. I think you'll notice quite a difference in height. Look at that. Wow. What a difference. So it's obvious that we've cheated in this footage because we're looking straight on at them, and that base may offend you a little bit. I'm sorry. You can't really stretch them out enough without doing that. Believe me, I've tried. But I'm happy with it. You don't really look at your miniatures like this very often. You're often looking down on them rather than straight at them, and it doesn't really become apparent that you've cheated in this way. I think the legs look a little bit funny, if I'm honest, on my conversion, and that's because we haven't altered them or stretched them out. But I'm willing to live with that. I'd rather keep those nice Mark III legs with all the rivets on. It just really adds to that brutal aesthetic. So let's now compare against some other miniatures. I'm most interested to see how it does against the Imperial Guardsman, the regular unaugmented human. Oh my holy Emperor! What a difference. That is how a Legionnaire should look against a regular human being. Or at least, that's how I feel about it. What do you think? I'm really keen to hear your thoughts and opinions on this, guys. Drop it in the comments below. It's an interesting discussion point for me. Moving on, let's draw some more comparisons. I've chosen some miniatures from the Age of Heresy box set. First of all is a regular Marine. Mark 6, unaltered, no conversion work. Quite short by comparison, isn't he? Too short in my view, which is why I tend to convert my beakies up to Primaris standard as well. Let's also have a look at the Praetor, which comes in the same box set. Now the Praetor is already Primaris sized, inexplicably. GW, get your scale sorted. But I think the two compare quite well. What do you think? If you've enjoyed the content, please consider liking and sharing, guys. It really does help. And if you're not already subscribed, consider giving me a sub. I'm going to drop some music down and show you the whole squad of Mark IIIs that I've done. I really hope you've enjoyed the video, and please join me for a future one. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.